Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. I wanted to talk about a couple of examples of transgender athletes in women's sports that really highlight the fact that these sporting bodies don't care about young girls. They really don't. Because why on earth is this allowed? The first example I want to talk about is the basketball player in Massachusetts. The male basketball player, he was playing on a girls' team, and there were 3 girls that ended up getting injured in the same game. The coach forfeited the game, and they cited reasons about them wanting to make the playoffs. They didn't want to, end up with too many injuries on the team, so that the team would end up having to, miss the playoffs or not have their best players playing on the team. So that was bad enough. Obviously, for safety reasons, we have this 6-foot male player on the team, and girls end up getting injured. A classic example of why we say that males do not belong in women's sports, ever. So this bearded individual, turns out, was suspended from a female rowing team. Not that long ago, this person was suspended because he was leering at a girl's breasts in the locker room. Because of course, a male identifying as a woman is allowed in the women's locker rooms. So this person was leering at her breasts and obviously made her feel very uncomfortable, put her in a position where she felt violated by this individual. And rightly so, this person was suspended. So why on earth is this person now allowed to play on the girls' basketball team in Massachusetts under their guidelines? They're willing to put these young girls at risk to appease a male's gender identity. Boy who wants to identify as a girl, so let him play on the girls' team, let him be in the locker rooms. This all came out in a report that was handed over to Congress, because enough is enough of this.
You got a biological male in the circle. He's a student. He's playing on a girls' basketball team. He's caught on camera injuring an opponent. If that video wasn't outrageous enough, you got a new report now alleging that the same student was kicked off a rowing team for making lewd comments in a girls' locker room back in 2022. How's that teen allowed to continue playing on women's teams? Evidently, that kid is playing in 5 sports. Our next guest was seriously injured by a transgender athlete when she played high school volleyball in North Carolina, Peyton McNabb. Peyton, I want to talk about what happened to you, but I also want us to look at this video again together. What is your reaction to this incident? Evidently, they would go on to forfeit the game when 2 other girls were hurt.
Yeah, it shouldn't take 2 other girls to get hurt. And watching this video, I mean, it is a hard watch, but this guy is like a tornado. I mean, he is destroying everything in his path. He's taking opportunity away from girls. And I mean, we're seeing it over and over again. He is not only damaging these girls physically, but also emotionally. He thinks he's entitled to every opportunity in every space that is supposed to be just for girls, and then whines because it's been hard for him. I mean, does he not think it's been hard for the girls also? And he's the one that's causing all of these issues. So to me, this is the definition of narcissism and misogyny.
Absolutely. And we're the adults in the room to say it's not fair. Let girls play with girls. Decisions you make in your life, that's up to you. No one's judging you. But don't screw up women's sports in the process. You should be ineligible to play. Don't you agree?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, our sport should not be getting damaged because you have a false reality.
Peyton, I want to talk about what happened to you. You're playing volleyball, and you got the ball spiked right into your face by a transgender. How did it affect you? And in that game, your team was so freaked out. How did it affect them?
Yeah, the rest of my team was terrified to continue the game, which, why wouldn't you be? I mean, what happened to me was completely avoidable. And because of what happened, my life has changed, it's been changed forever. And unfortunately, I don't know if I'll ever be back to the way I was before. It's really unfortunate, but that's just the way it is. I'm having to live with that.
Lastly, what's lingering from that game?
So the headaches are still really bad. My cognitive issues are probably the worst. I'm in college right now, and I'm having to get extra help in school, which is something I've never had to do before. So yeah, there's a lot of different things that follow that. My body's still in shock, so I have other health problems because of the trauma to my brain. And it's really unfair, and this should have never happened to me. And I should have never been put in this place by North Carolina's High School Athletic Association.
Right.
So it's the Massachusetts Interscholastic Athletics Association that said that this player can play based on his gender identity because biology doesn't matter to them. So it says a student shall not be excluded from participation on a gender-specific sports team that is consistent with the student's bona fide gender identity. And that's it. So this person is quite the athlete. Most of the success this person has enjoyed has been while playing against girls. Though as recent as November last year, this person was playing on the girls' volleyball team and made the all-star game. So while playing volleyball, this person had more kills, unreturnable shots than the rest of the team combined, and the most aces and blocks, according to school statistics. The team went 13-9 that season, and this athlete played 68 sets, equal most on the team. The same student also set records in 400-meter hurdles and shot put, both as a female competitor. So the person threw 41-foot 2-inch shot that was 6 feet longer than the best throw in the senior event or the Massachusetts State Championships that year. So this person is having huge success while competing against females. However, this person is also a black belt in Taekwondo. So you can imagine these young girls are up against this person in basketball. Is it any wonder there were such injuries? So the student belonged to a private rowing club in Massachusetts in 2021-2022 before the alleged direct case of harassment in the team's changing rooms. So the March 20 report to the Senate Health, Education, Labor and Pensions Committee by Republican Senator Bill Cassidy used male pronouns for the student. Of course, the male athlete was caught staring openly at one of the female athletes while she changed her clothes in the women's locker room and remarked, "Ooh, titties," it read. When the female athlete nearby asked if it was the first time he had seen female breasts, the male athlete responded, yeah, with a laugh. The male athlete was suspended for this incident. The report also claims that many issues were caused for the female athletes because they refused to use the locker room while this person was in there. Understandably so. And what happens is they find other places where they can get changed. They're obviously inconvenienced. They don't feel comfortable going into their bathrooms, into their own locker rooms, because they're being forced to share with a male athlete. It was the US Center for Safe Sport who intervened, and this athlete was banned from rowing, again, in both the male and the female teams. So again, my question is, why do sporting bodies think it's okay to put female athletes through this? They can't even comfortably use their locker rooms. They can't comfortably use their bathrooms. Not to mention the fact that it's unsafe when they're up against these male athletes. Why is that okay? Or to appease identity? Since when is identity more important than everything else? Why is his desires more important than the safety of the female athletes? They go and allow somebody who was suspended for the very issue that many are concerned with when we allow male athletes into women's locker rooms. But now this person's allowed to play for the women's basketball team for a chartered school in Massachusetts, and now is probably allowed in a locker room as well. And this person wasn't suspended because he's been discriminated against. He was suspended for his behavior. In fact, they let this male athlete in the locker rooms in the first place because of identity. And clearly that wasn't a good move. So the parents of the young girls who were in the rowing team, they wrote a letter to US Rowing, and the letter is very insightful. It gives a glimpse into what these young girls went through. And now these basketball girls have been left to go through the same thing. So the letter begins, "Our daughters have stayed quiet because they are afraid. We tried to speak up for them and we were shut down. We tried to speak to leadership at all levels, but name calling and the threat of mental health is being used as emotional blackmail to keep us all quiet, while women are harmed and devalued. The rowing team also required the male athlete to room with them on trips. The girl spoke to us about quitting rowing because of the intimidation of being forced to be in a hotel room alone with a male. So we've had young girls forced to share locker rooms and now forced to share hotel rooms. Why is that acceptable? Again, I'm just asking the question. Why should young girls have to share hotel rooms with males who they are uncomfortable with, who they did not consent to be in a hotel room with, who they did not consent to be in the locker room with? They just joined a women's rowing team. That's it. So they had the expectation that their locker rooms were going to be with other women. Their hotel rooms, when they're out on the road, were going to be with their teammates, with their female teammates. This was just thrust upon them. In order to continue in the sport that they enjoy doing, they have to be willing to share hotel rooms with men. They have to be willing to be in the locker room with men, even after questionable behaviour. And they're not even allowed to speak out and say, how this makes them feel. Never mind their mental health, by the way. The mental health of the women doesn't seem to matter. So I really hope that stories like this get these sporting bodies to reconsider allowing transgender athletes to compete in women's sports, because it's far greater than just they have an advantage. It goes a lot deeper than that. And you know what? In my opinion, it's outright abusive to silence these young girls and to tell them that they have to be okay with it. I'm glad the person was suspended from the rowing team, but the fact that this person is now allowed to play in girls' basketball, for under another sporting body, it's just unacceptable. This person has been in multiple sports that are supposed to be for women, that are supposed to be for females, taking away places from multiple girls, places that were rightfully belonging to a female athlete. So as well as that, we have the most obvious reason why transgender athletes who are male shouldn't be in women's categories, because they do have an unfair advantage. Classic example right here.
For Wilhelmina, Jaden Vanderveen. In 7 for Bergen Episcopal, Abby Wilson. Out very well is Gallagher of McDaniel in lane 2. You're going to see Gallagher later on in the relays. Great knees, great drive. Gallagher, the victory here in section number 1. 25-49. Second Wilson in 30-77, third Skyspers in 31-31.
So this is over in Oregon, in Woke, Oregon. Well, Portland is the woke part. The rest of Oregon is not as woke. So we have this male athlete who obviously dominated the 200 meters. I mean, how demoralizing for the female athletes. Their only crime is being female. That's it. They train as hard as they can. They're committed to making sure that they're at their best. And it's still not going to be good enough because they're females. Their bodies are completely different from this male athlete. But again, because of identity, it's somehow okay to put girls through this humiliation. But you know what? Those girls have got nothing to be ashamed of. So this is a 10th grader. I hope this person hasn't embarked upon any hormones or anything like that. But I would think that none of that's necessary. You just have to identify and you can compete in women's sports. So Riley Gaines said on X, encouraged and celebrated cheating at the hands of the adults in the room. So many fingers to point, but shame on the parents, the schools, the boy, our weak administration, and the Oregon School Activities Association. And again, every time we talk about advantages, we have someone bring up a really bad male athlete who don't even, dominate the women's team or the girls' team. They might come second or, 5th or last. I don't care. They're male. They don't belong in the women's category.
Mental aspect or the psychological aspect of people targeting you if you do well, or singling you out is having unfair advantage, it it slows me down. I slow myself down. I slow myself down.
And I've heard female athletes talk about overhearing these transgender athletes speaking to their coaches and their coaches telling them to slow down. So let's not pretend that that doesn't happen as well. Obviously, they might want to win the championship, they're going to come first. But if they're just competing in a heat, for example, I'll come fifth for that one just to throw them off a little bit. Not make it as obvious. Or maybe I won't win by body lengths this time. Maybe I'll add a second or two onto my time. They have the luxury to do that, these male athletes. They can decide to hold off a little bit and still do well. We have a 50-year-old man competing with 12-year-old girls over in Canada. He came 6th in one race. That still doesn't mean he belongs in that category, does it? Why is it okay to put young girls through this humiliation where they're demoralized? Some of these athletes have had multiple transgender athletes in their races. So this is obviously unacceptable, and it sends a clear message to girls, to women, that they're not the priority in their own sport. Pretty insane if you're asking me. Pretty insane. So let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Take care of yourselves, and God willing, I will see you in the next video.